Welcome into this week's edition of the Coaches Show. We're all about basketball and a little bit of sprinkling of baseball in there as well, too. But joining me first is our women's head basketball coach, Dr. Britta Belanger. Coach, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
And, Coach, obviously, talk about a week where you've gone 1-1, and it's been a little bit of a weird kind of time. You had a 2-week period here where you've only played 2 games, and but just talk about how your team, for lack of better words, have been able to weather the storm. You know, because of that winter storm that came through the area, you've had a bunch of games get moved around and those kind of things, but I think the girls have handled the adversity pretty well.
Yeah, we have handled the adversity really well. It has been an adverse week. As a basketball coach, you never want to play 2 games in 2 weeks. We had some games get canceled. We had some games get moved around. At one point last week, we didn't know who we were playing or when we were playing, and our team is looking at me and going, Coach, what are we doing? Who are we working on today? Who's the scout going to be on? I said, we're working on Co-Lin. So we've had a chance. I think it's been good for us because we've had a chance to, number one, heal some injuries that we've had, some nagging injuries that just needed some rest. And the other thing is we've been able to work on some things that have been kind of points of interest for Coach Ray and I, things that we haven't done well, things that we need to improve on. We've had some time to slow down and be able to work on that. We've had some time to slow down and really be able to put up more shots, and that's been really good for us. But I'm ready to get back in a normal routine. I'm not real fired up about having to play 3 games in 6 or 7 days coming up, moving forward, and that's one reason that we've been able to work on a lot of stuff, and we were able to get ahead on scouts because, I told them today, I said, we're going to play Kahoma on Saturday, and then we're going to turn around and play Pearl River on Monday, and it's all fixing to happen very, very fast, and we're not going to have a lot of prep time. So we're having to use some of these extra days to go ahead and plan ahead and prep ahead, which is good that we're able to do that, but it's all going to happen very fast when we start playing again.
I think when Bryce Perry and myself were at practice one day, we heard you say, we heard you tell the team, we're going to play somebody on Saturday. I don't know who it is, but we're getting ready for somebody. It kind of made me laugh. It's kind of like, well, that's kind of how we're in the mood right now because we thought we were going to play one team and no, we got to play this one. But again, girls have done a great job of handling that adversity adverse reaction to adverse situations right now, and you get through the bye week. But we go back to before the storms came in. You go up to Itawamba. You take a pretty tough loss on that one, 66-45. And the head scratching part of this one is the stats say, all but one stat say this game should have been a lot closer than it was. They only shot a little better than 2% from you in field goal percentage. You shot better from 3. You shot better from free throw. The biggest difference was they out rebounded you by almost 20, and that's kind of where this game really got out of hand for you.
Yeah, when you get out rebounded by 20 rebounds, it's very difficult to win games, especially on the road against a really good team. The trip to Itawamba is a difficult trip anyway because it's 5 hours. From here to Fulton is 5 hours. Their gym is really nice. Their campus is really nice. Most of our players have not played in an arena that looks like that. And while we prepare them for it in film and we show it to them, it's very different when you walk in and see it. So we were a little deer in the headlights from the start. If you were watching the game, we missed 6 layups in the first 2 minutes, so you could tell that we were deer in the headlights. And we called timeout and tried to calm them down. And I told them, I said, if y'all can't make layups, we're going to really struggle. And we did calm down. We made runs. We kept it within 8 or 10 points most of the game. But toward the end, it just kind of got away from us. And the biggest reason is we didn't battle on the boards. We had a lot of chances to go get it, and we just weren't able to do it.
And you look at this one, they outscored you 12-6 in the first, 16-13 in the second, 21-20 in the third, and 17-6 in the fourth. And really that fourth quarter probably feels like where it really got out of hand because that third quarter felt like you spent a lot of energy battling back and just a little bit too much there to where you couldn't sustain it. And you look at your individual scores, Akila Hobson, Madison Mitchell, 13 and 11 respectively. I think on any other game night, I'd tell you your guards get you double-digit scoring figures. You're thinking, we probably won this game. We probably played really well. Unfortunately, your other players like Amani Key and Cam Pruitt and Zion Nelson just didn't have the games that you're used to having in this moment for you.
Yeah, Maddie and Akila were very good, and they're both very good most every night. Even when the scoring column doesn't show that they're very good, they take so much pressure off everybody else because those two handle the ball for us all the time. But not only did they have to handle the ball a lot in this Itawamba game, we also called their number to score for us a lot, and we didn't have numbers from some of those players, Cam Pruitt, Imani Keys, Zion Nelson, who typically have been putting up good numbers for us. Everybody's going to have a bad game. That happens. It was a bad night for all 3 of those to have a bad game at the same time. I thought Jalen Applewhite was really good in this game. She came off the bench. She used her skill in the post because she did have some size advantages. I thought she was really good in this game. Looking back, we did expend a lot of energy in the third quarter to try to come back, and we did. Like I said, we kept it to 8 or 10. I think at one point we cut it to 6, and then in the fourth there came a point at the time, we didn't know what was going to happen with the weather. The lead had kind of ballooned, and in the fourth, there came a time where we went, okay, some of these people with injuries, some of these people that are playing a lot of minutes, we may have to pull them back and kind of protect them moving forward, because we knew that Itawamba was a hard one. We knew that the road trip was going to make it difficult, and we also knew that we had a home game coming up Monday. The weather kind of messed all that up. So, had I had been able to see in the future a glass ball, I might have changed and made different decisions. But those are the decisions you have to make as a coach. And, moving forward, it's going to help us because we were able to rest them and protect them.
Yeah. And, I think the good news is as you move forward and you go to this past Saturday, the good news is that you were able to rebound and you're able to get a win on the road, a win where you really had to grind it out. This is a game on the inverse that says the stats say you probably should have won by more than what you did, probably should have made it to overtime, but you did. A little self-made adversity late in that game. The girls had to overcome it. Just talk about how they were able to step up to the plate and find a way to win in overtime, whereas earlier in the year you had one and you let it slip away in overtime, but this time that didn't happen.
Yeah, really, really proud of our toughness, really proud of our fight in this one. Once again, going to Booneville, 5-hour trip, very difficult trip, very long trip, very difficult to ask a team to get off a bus and win. And we broke it up, but we had to leave at 7:30 in the morning to get there on time. So I was really proud of them, really proud of their fight. We came out, and unlike the Itawamba game where we didn't score the first few minutes, in this game we came out and it was bang, 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 bang. We probably, like you said earlier, should have been up 11 or 12 to nothing before Northeast ever even scored. I didn't think we did a great job in the second quarter defensively, and in the third quarter when we came back out after the half, Northeast was kind of on fire. They made a lot of shots. We were down about 10 with about 6 minutes left. And I was kind of thinking to myself, I was like, I don't know if we're going to be able to sustain it, because when you get down 10, it's very difficult. But it was never 10 and it never stayed 10. It was 10 and then we were down 8. And then it was 6 and then it was 7. And we kept it really close. And at the end, we were able to make some big plays. Once again, I think Coach and I kind of held our press in our pocket till the very end. And when we started pressing at the end, it really made a big difference. Maddie Mitchell, again, she does so many great things for us, but her ability to guard, her ability to put pressure on the ball makes it very difficult for people. And when we started pressing, it made Northeast have a really tough time.
You look at the box score of this one, again, you mentioned it, red hot in that first quarter. You outscored them 21-17. They outscored you 15-12 in the second quarter, but you still held a 1-point lead going into half. Now, you mentioned in the third quarter, they came out red hot. I think it was like an 8-2 scoring run, and that's kind of where they grabbed the lead. But the fourth quarter, you outscored them 17-13, and I think what's critical is you look at it, and if you look at the play-by-play, the last 5 points came from two of your sophomores, and Imani Key and Cam Pruitt. Cam Pruitt had two jumpers or layups, and Imani had a free throw. But maybe the most key moment, it came from a freshman we talked about, Jalen Applewhite. You talk about your freshman trying to find moments. This may have been her one shining moment so far this season. She blocked what would have been a game-winning layup and sent the game into overtime. And for a freshman to pull off that in that moment, in that scenario, on the road against a good Northeast team, I don't think as a coach you can be much prouder than her.
No, I couldn't be. I thought she had a really good game all the way around. I have no idea what her stat numbers were, but I just remember her playing so well. She understands. She's a very smart player, and she understands the scout really, really well. Her player was not a player who scored a lot of points, so she knew I can give a lot of help, and her size and her length makes it easy for her to give help, and it makes it difficult for opponents. And so on that last play of the game where they set the back screen and we had not seen that and we didn't know it was coming, her length made a huge difference and saved that bucket and probably sent the game to overtime. When we got to overtime, again, I question everything I do. That's my job. And, the Holmes game, I felt like I used my timeout a little early, and I told Coach Ray when we got to overtime, I said, we're not using that timeout early. We're also fortunate that in that overtime game, we had 2 timeouts left. One thing I think made a big difference for us in this game, and I'm really excited about moving forward, is we started using media timeouts, which is, you use it in the playoffs, and I'm really glad that we're starting to use it in regular season, and it helped us a lot in this game because we used it to change defenses. More than that, we used it to just be able to give our players a breath, and at the end of the game, we had way more timeouts left, and so that means a lot to us because timeout advance has changed women's basketball so much. You can be up 6 or 8, but with timeout advance, your lead is not safe. So I'm really excited about being able to play with those media timeouts moving forward.
In the overtime period, you outscored them 10-6. That's how you get the 72-68 victory there. And, we talked about it again, the inverse of the last game. You only had 2 players in double figures. You had 3 in double figures, including players that you really rely on. We're not going to talk about a player in double figures first, because we did talk about Jalen a second ago. We want to mention her line. Just 3 points, but big on the boards, 5 rebounds, 1 steal, 2 blocks. Again, not an eye-popping stat line from the scoring perspective, but from the rebounds and the steals and the defensive side, that's huge out of a freshman. Yeah, so from the scoring, Akila Hobson led the way with 20 points. She also had 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and a steal. The biggest game came from Cam Pruitt, a person that we just talked about. She didn't have a great game against Itawamba. She had a kind of a little over a week to stew on that one. All she did was have 19 points and 15 rebounds, and we'll tell everybody that was good enough for MACCC Player of the Week. Cam became turned into Cam that we're used to seeing. Right. And then Amani Key, 17 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. Cam Pruitt also had 3 assists and 4 steals. So she was big not only on the boards, but she was big in assists and turning over and those kind of things as well, too. So 3 huge games from 3 sophomores.
Yeah, 3 huge games from 3 sophomores that we really depend on to do a lot of scoring. But I think if one of the things I like about those stat lines is they're all scoring, but they're also all rebounding. They've all got steals. They've all got assists. So all 3 of them brought a complete game to us. And you could go down the line. Jalen Applewhite brought a complete game to us, even though her stats were not that great. Maddie Mitchell, I don't know what she did. I don't know what her stat line was, but we can't win that game without her handling the ball and her defense. And she got a little frustrated and down on herself early, and she was able to rebound and bounce back. And I think that comes with being a sophomore and that mental toughness that she has. We can't do what we do without her. Jay Robinson, who's not a kid we talk about a lot, we put her in late to make some defensive plays, and she made some huge defensive plays for us. So it takes all of us, and sometimes the stat lines don't always give those players credit, But those 3, for us to be really good and for us to compete like we have been, we need Cam, Imani, and Akila to continue to have big games. 2-time Player of the Week for Cam Pruitt. I don't know. Cookie was really good last year, and I don't know that she was 2-time Player of the Week very much.
2-time Player of the Week, 1-time National Player of the Week. Maybe has a chance of getting that again. So we'll hope and wait and see when the national office releases that and give that to people if it happens. But now you turn your attention to your next 2 upcoming games. A little bit of a tricky situation because you're going to play on Saturday. You're going to host Kahoma. You'll host the Lady Tigers at 1 o'clock on Saturday, and then you're going to go on the road on Monday, a little less than, not even a full 40-hour, a little over 48-hour turnaround and play the Lady Wildcats of Pearl River. First, what do we know about the Lady Tigers coming in on Saturday?
Kahoma is red hot. They've been playing really well. They beat Northwest at home, their last game that they played. Northwest, who I think is a team who's been playing really well and is in the top of our league. They were able to beat them basically on a buzzer beater. They play a little 1-3-1 zone, which we're not used to seeing because not many people in our league play it. So that'll be a little bit of a curveball. We'll start working on that tomorrow and start, talking about things that we need to do to be able to beat it. They shoot it pretty well. I think they're going to play fast and they're going to be very athletic. She's done a really good job with them. And so having them in our gym makes me a lot more comfortable. A 1 o'clock tip on a Saturday makes me comfortable because now it's flipped. Instead of us having to get on the bus and ride 5 hours to Northeast or to Itawamba, Kahoma's having to make that long trip, and it's really difficult. But we can't take this one lightly. The home games are so important. I know I say that every time we talk, but the home games are so important because we need to protect our home floor. The road games are so tough anyway. Going to Northeast is tough. Going to Pearl River is going to be tough. Going to Jones is going to be tough. We need to win the home games just to have that security. And, I told them at the Northeast game, we're not talking about finishing 11th. Let's talk about winning the league because the league is wide open to win. Let's talk about winning the league. And to win the league, you're going to have to go on the road and win. And that's why that Northeast game was so big because we were able to go on the road and get a big win.
And then, obviously, what do we know about the Lady Wildcats when we go over there on Monday?
Not a whole lot. I started watching a little bit on them. Obviously, I know they're undefeated in league play. I also know that they've got some injuries going on. They're a very different team than they were last year. They lost a lot of players. They've had some kids. The lady that's there now was at Kahoma. She brought some players with her from Kahoma to Pearl River. So some of those players we're going to be familiar with because we played against them last year. They're good. Obviously, they wouldn't be undefeated in the league if they weren't good, but I really haven't done a lot of digging into them yet. I'm going to try to take one at a time, and we will have to look ahead, tonight, tomorrow night. That's probably something I'll do is start looking at Pearl River a little bit, and that way I can have, cuts and be prepped for them, and then I'll go back straight to Kahoma. But I know they press a little bit. I don't think that'll cause us problems. We've, played against that. They've got a couple of bigs inside that will be matchup problems for us a little bit. So the biggest thing is we just need to be mentally prepared to go into a hostile environment because it's always a hostile environment at Pearl River, and we just need to be mentally prepared for that.
All right. Well, hopefully the next time we talk to you, we're talking about a couple of Lady Wolves wins. Again, the last couple, you dropped one against Itawamba, 66-45, rebounded with a nice win in overtime against Northeast this past Saturday, 72-68. Next time you can catch the Lady Wolves will be this Saturday, hosting Kahoma at 1 p.m. in Mullen Gym. We hope to see you there. If you can't make it, of course, we'll give you the stream information when we post on our social medias as well too. And then at Pearl River on Monday, we'll give you all those information as we have it available to us as well too. Stick with us through the break. We've got men's basketball and baseball on the horizon after this. Welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us through the break, and joining me as promised is our head men's basketball coach, Randy Bolden. Coach, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
And Coach, obviously, unfortunately, we got to talk about a couple of tough losses, tough road losses. Those have been your last two. You go all the way back to January 22nd. Obviously, we didn't have one last week because we didn't play till the end of the week with all the winter storms and all that kind of throwing the schedule in kind of chaos there. But you go back to January 22nd, you go up to Itawamba, and you take a 79-55 loss. And you look at this one, and, it's hard to say this, but this game for a time was closer and did feel closer than what this 24-point margin says it was.
Well, yeah, I thought we dug ourselves a hole early in the game, but we found a way to get back in it. And, it's a game of runs, and I just felt like we couldn't sustain their runs, and they were able to let the game got away from us late in the first half.
Yeah, and you look at it, they outscored you 40-24 in the first half, 39-31 in the second half, and you just mentioned it. There was a moment there in that first half where I think you had a chance to maybe grab the lead or get it down to one possession, and then you look up all of a sudden and it's back to a double-digit lead, and then you never really could get it back down to that again. And that kind of felt like it made the difference there, that late run in the first half, and it just felt like you could never seize the momentum back.
Well, absolutely. I thought they did a good job of pressuring us, and we turned the ball over. And Kevin, that's kind of been our Achilles heel. We play really well when we take care of the basketball, and not so much when we average 18, 19 turnovers. And I know we were high double figures in turnovers at Itawamba, and that's most of the time that's going to cost us the ball game.
Yeah, 21 turnovers in this one, as you just mentioned it. Whenever you get that many, it's probably not going to be a recipe for success. You look at the individual box scores. You only had one player in double figures. The guy that we've talked a lot about. He's come off the bench for you some. He started for you some. He came off the bench, gave you 14 points and 8 rebounds in this one. That was Morris Hammond. So it seems like Mo was able to figure out some things throughout this game.
Yeah, Mo has been playing well as of late. He's figuring out that how important it is to practice hard and be an everyday guy. That was one of the things we were on him a lot about early on, the consistency of coming to work every day. And I think he's figuring it out, and you're seeing he's reaping the benefits of the results of how he's playing on the floor.
Yeah, Tyrell Bowles had 9 points, 9 rebounds. It kind of felt like they just kind of put him in a little bit of a box and really didn't let him really do what we're used to seeing him do. A couple other guys, Jamie McGee had 8 points, came off the bench. That's one of his best games off the bench. And Tristan Lucas had 6 points in this one for you. So you had guys contribute. You just didn't have guys contribute like you're used to seeing.
Right, and they did a good job of making it tough for Tyrell to catch in his sweet spots, and when he did catch it, he showed a lot of double teams, which a lot of teams going to do that. So we got to adjust, and we got to have guys to be able to knock down open shots and step up. Our bench production's got to be better. I think when we're playing well, we're taking care of the ball, and our bench is really good.
Yeah, and then fast forward, you go to this past Saturday. You go on the road. You play Northeast. This was a game that we thought it was going to be Kahoma. It wasn't Kahoma, but it wasn't Kahoma because of some ice. This game got moved because of ice as well too. But you got this one in. You go on the road. You go up to Northeast, and you lose this one as well, 85-63. But again, another game where, despite the margin, this game felt close for a good chunk of time. And really, you look at this one, and I think there's a moment where it was 16-15 our way and something like that, and I think Northeast closes it out on a 19-6 scoring run at the first half. And again, it was an end of the first half run that really kind of led to the loss for your guys.
Yeah, with 5 minutes to go in the first half, we were down 4, and they just went on a 13-14 to 3 run and closed out the first half. And again, turnover woes. We turned it over, and when you're playing good teams like this, you can't afford to turn it over. And we're addressing it every day. Our guys are getting better, and I think we'll be better going forward.
Yeah, and you and I kind of talked about this yesterday or earlier this week. We were talking about, and it's kind of a sign of, unfortunately, of having a young team. Those road struggles. We talk about it. Unfortunately, you've only won one on the road so far. You still got some opportunities to win one against some tough teams, but that's a sign of just again an unfortunate sign of having a young team, because you and I. You talked, you said you feel like either one of those teams, maybe at a neutral site or at our place, it might be a different score. Yeah. Not saying that you would have won, but maybe it's a lot closer than what these margins are.
Right, and we have to figure that out. And like I told, I said, guys, it's on the job training, and we have to find a way to win on the road. And right now, of course, we won 1 on the road. We dropped 2 on the road. So we got a chance to fix this and get better, and I think these guys are. It's a bitter taste on our mouth, so we're ready to get on to the next one, and the guys been working hard, so we'll be ready to go.
Your 2 leading scorers in this one were Tyrell Bowles. He had 17 and 6, and Mustafa Salik had 15 and 2. And Moo is really a kid we've kind of seen these last couple of weeks. He's really starting to figure some things out. He's really starting to show some of that athleticism that you see a lot in practice, that Bryce Perry and I have seen a lot in practice, and it's really starting to pay off for you.
Yeah, and when we signed Moo, we knew that he could be a impact player, and I think he's just starting to get comfortable. I mean, Moo is a worker. He's a super kid, and he's starting to get comfortable in what we're doing. And I think the best basketball for Moo is here ahead in this February.
Yeah. And now we'll look ahead to your next couple. We won't be able to have a game until this Saturday. That's what we're going to talk about. But we're supposed to play Monday. We're supposed to play Northwest. That game got moved to February 21st because they're still iced in. Our bye week was this upcoming Thursday, so unfortunately you don't get to play again for another week. That'll be this Saturday, a game that's been postponed. But you're finally going to get to play Coahoma. What do we know about the Tigers coming in here on Saturday at 3 o'clock?
Well, they've been playing really well. They're I think maybe lost 1 or 2 games in the league as well, and they're very athletic. They shoot the ball extremely well from the outside, physical. It's going to be a good test for us, and we're just hoping we can start to get some consistency in playing. The long layoffs. We're trying to emulate the game as much as you can in practice, but that's hard. So hopefully once we start here Saturday, we'll start to get some rhythm and get back to going.
Yeah. And then you'll have a quick turnaround. You'll have to go on the road on Monday. You have to go down to Pearl River. Fortunately, this one's not, but about a couple of hours, right. A lot shorter than the last couple that you've had to make. So maybe that helps with that adjusting to the road atmosphere as well too. But what do we know about the Wildcats? I know this is a bunch that just beat Northeast earlier this week as well at their place. So what do we know about the Wildcats heading into this one?
Well, their guard strength is in their guards. They're really good. They're going to pressure you. They like to score. So transition defense is going to be huge for us playing a Chris Oney team. If you know Chris Oney, he loves to score. So we have to be able to get back and make it tough for them on the defensive side and just take care of the basketball and execute on both ends of the floor.
Well, hopefully your guys will be able to pull that up, able to regroup themselves and get a couple of wins. Hopefully the next time we're talking to you, we're talking about a pair of Wolves wins. Again, the guys have dropped their last 2 on the road, losing to Itawamba back on January 22nd. I almost said July. We're not in July yet. Although we might wish it would be a little bit warmer. January 22nd, 79-55 against Itawamba, 85-63 loss to Northeast this past Saturday. They will host Coahoma this upcoming Saturday at 3 p.m. and then go to Pearl River and face the Wildcats in Poplarville at 7:30 on Monday, February 9th. Coach, again, thanks for joining with us, and we look forward to talking to you next week. Stick with us. Coming up after the break, we've got baseball on the horizon, and they have already started their season. Coach Flessner is going to join us and talk about how the Wolves did in their season opener after this.
At Capaya Lincoln Community College, you'll find a family of instructors and staff who truly care about your success, and not to mention a really fun college experience too. Co-Lin was recently ranked number 1 in the state for student success. So whether you need to start or finish your college degree, take classes on one of our 3 campuses or online, Co-Lin is the place to be.
Welcome back in. Thanks for joining us for our final segment of this week's show. And joining me for the first time, as promised, is our head baseball coach, Kyle Flessner. Coach, thanks for joining me.
I appreciate you having me.
And, Coach, obviously, we get to talk about a little bit of fun because you opened the season earlier this week against Nunez and you swept the Pelicans. You got the first 2 wins of the season, first 2 wins as a head coach. Congratulations on those.
I appreciate it.
Obviously, just first, your thoughts on how big it was to go out there. And, as I joked with you yesterday, you can't win them all if you don't win the first one. And, hey, we won the first one plus 1 more. So your thoughts overall on able to get that sweep to start the season?
Absolutely. It just started off with the first pitch, get that under your belt, then get the first out under your belt. Then, hey, now we're in it, we can start playing. And then I can't lie, getting that first one as a win, that's getting that monkey off your back. All right, now we can just go play this season and really have fun doing it.
Yeah, and it kind of felt like it was really nice to hear your guys kind of give a big yell at the end of that first one when y'all were huddling. I'm sure that was in celebration of getting the first win for you. But you look at this one in the first game, you win it 13-12. You tried to give it away. You tried to give them a chance, especially there at the end. You look at it, you scored 4 runs in the first inning, took advantage of several errors, scored 5 in the fourth, 1 in the sixth. They scored 2 in the second, 3 in the third, 1 in the sixth, and you go to the 8th inning and you've got a 10-6 lead and you're feeling really good about it. But unfortunately, you give up a 6th spot, including a grand slam off of your closer Nash Sturdivant, a pitch I think he just left a little too much of the plate. The good news is your guys were able to rebound, got 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th. I think 2 of those came off a double by Brady White, who had a great game in this one, and you're able to close out the door. Nash comes back in, and I jokingly told somebody after he threw those first couple of strikes, I said, okay, the hammer's locked in now. Yeah. We're good to go. How good was it to see your guys really kind of overcome some adversity, some self-made adversity, but still they were able to overcome that and find a way to win it?
Yeah, well, that was the first thing I told them during the game. I said there's going to be good things that happen for us, and there's going to be times where we just get absolutely smacked in the mouth. And Nunez as a team, give credit to them. They don't give up. They don't care who is in the other dugout. They're going to play their game. They play it hard, and no lead is safe with them, especially with the type of day it was yesterday. Wind's blowing out a little bit. Team that can traditionally always swing the bat. No lead's ever safe. And the 2 guys, Co-Lin Weinhofer and Nash, that gave up a few big home runs, I just told them, I said, hey, you threw a lot better than what the score sheet said. Mm-hmm. And Nash, in his case, he didn't even have his full repertoire. He found a way to compete with what he had, and that's just, being a veteran, being a second-year guy and having that experience, that's what kind of helped us in the long run.
Yeah, and you look at the box score in this one as well, too, the individuals. Bryson Jones in his first game in a Wolves uniform, 3 for 5 with 2 RBIs. Trey Davidson had a sparkling doubleheader, started in game 1, 4 for 5 with 3 ribbies. John Mark Grissom had a sparkling debut for the Wolves, 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs. Brady White, 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs. Avery Griffin, don't think Avery got a hit all day, but he did get an RBI in this one. He had some really hard-struck balls. Unfortunately, just found gloves. But you look at it, up and down this lineup, you really had guys contributing, and it was guys that we're used to hearing from last year and some new faces as well, too.
That's been a big part of it. I don't think it's been any secret to anybody in the league, our own guys just around campus. We have a very veteran ball club this year, and so if adversity happens, they know what to do. They know not to panic, and don't hide from it. If that's your strength, stick with it. And so that's been big. Had a lot of guys get their first yesterday too, as far as the younger ones. You could tell the nerves were in there, but you just got to let them know that, hey, there's 53 more of these things coming in, so we got to lock in and we need you.
Yeah. And you mentioned the pitching staff. You had to use 5 guys in this one. Co-Lin Weinhofer, you look at his stat line and it says 2 1/3 innings pitched. He gave up 5 runs, all earned on 6 hits, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. And you look at that line and go, that's not the best line from Co-Lin. Maybe he didn't have his best stuff. But then you look at the breakdown, 64 pitches, 43 of those are strikes. Yeah. That's kind of what you want out of him. I talked to him after the game. I said, he had a couple of your 0-2 or your 2-out pitches, maybe just caught a little bit too much of the plate, and that's what led to some of those hits and runs. And he looked at it, he said, it's definitely a learning experience for him.
Well, he handled it better than anybody. When I took him out of the game, he was still head high. He was controlling what he could, and I think the part that I can deal with at any point in the time is they had to earn every bit of it. They had to swing the bat to keep getting runs in. It's not like we were handing them the ball game. And so that time you just got to tip your cap and say, hey, I thought you did a lot better than what the score sheet said, and he agreed. And that's a good thing to build off of.
Then you turn to Lucian Walker. He gave you a solid inning, one walk, one strikeout. Jennings Kimbrell, at this point, I think we just call Jennings over-reliable.
Yeah.
He gave you 3 2/3, only gave up 1 earned run on 3 hits, 4 strikeouts. I joked with some of the guys in the press box after we had a ball fall between our center fielder and shortstop. I was like, man, our defense has got to help out our pitcher right now because he's not a strikeout pitcher. And what does he do? He goes, buckles the next guy and strikes him out. I said, well, he's going to show me what I know, apparently. Jacob Buffalo comes in, doesn't get an out. He had 2 earned runs on a walk, but then Nash Sturdivant came in, gave you 2 innings, gave up the grand slam on 2 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. Nash really did a good job of rebounding, and he got the win in this one.
Yeah, ultimately he was settled in by that time that home run happened. It just one pitch that beat him that kind of went to the bat path of the hitter, and outside of that he kept getting outs. Anybody else would fold in that situation and kind of start trying to overthrow because they're mad, and he just kind of stuck to his game, and we know how offensive we can be, so we knew that we still had a shot to win that game.
And you look at the second game, this one says it was 4-2, and it was, but it was a 4-2 ball game that with the way your guys were pitching, even though the offense maybe wasn't as alive as it was in game 1, it felt like it was much larger than a 4-2 ball game.
Yeah. Tanner Blackwell, I said it all fall. I said I think he's been our most improved guy. He's proven himself in inter squads, and I felt like I was joking to Coach Sala and Coach Hill that I thought I was just playing a video game calling pitches. I could have called anything, and I thought we had a shot for it to land and where it was supposed to be. So.
Yeah. And you look at this one, you scored 2 in the first, 2 in the third. That's all you really needed. They scored 2 in the fifth. That's how you get the 4-2 line. Individuals, we talked about it. Trey Davidson was 4 for 5 in game 1, 3 for 3 in this one. Anytime you start a season 7 of 8 and you have I believe that's 4 RBIs or 3 RBIs. That's a pretty good way to start the year. Bradley Hanlon was 3 for 3 in this one. That was the majority of your hits. Donovan Moore, Evan Holyfield, both with a hit each as well too. So 8 hits in this one. Again, these were 4 sophomores, 4 guys that you know you're going to have to rely on, and they were able to kind of help pick it up. Where when this lineup didn't have as much pop as you did in game 1.
Yeah, I think the difference in this year and last year, obviously the age, everybody's going to get bigger and stronger. We're developing, but. You know, the biggest thing is if we had a runner at third with less than 2 outs, we were very tough to strike out in those spots. I know we had 14 strikeouts on the day, but it was all well balanced, and none of them seemed to come in a really big spot except for maybe one of them. And so that was huge. We were able to always get that run in and not leave guys at second and third and get them stranded and let the other team get a little bit of momentum. Yeah. So. Also
want to mention Donovan Moore, 3 RBI. So he was responsible for 3 of the 4 runs coming in. Big game from him in game 2.
He was productive as all get out.
And we talked a little bit about the pitchers. You just mentioned it. Tanner Blackwell, ironically enough, Tanner is a guy who last year you had to really throw him into some hard things. You know, got some starts. He got his first career win last night. So hats off to him. Wow. You know, that's really weird to say as a sophomore coming back, a guy that you're going to lean on, gets his first win in his first start this year. But his stuff was electric. You know, 4 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, and he never faced more than 4 batters an inning. I think if he did, it was only like 5 one inning. I mean, it was just, you know, he'd get out, hit, and then next guy out, hit, next guy out. He retired the side 1 inning. He looked like a really different pitcher than what he was last year.
And you always worry at the beginning of the year with pitch counts and all that, making sure you're not, you know, having too much of an workload too early. And with him, he never had any high-stress pitches. I think the farthest a runner got was second base or third base, but at that point, he got out of the inning. He was cruising the rest of the way, and then he made the decision making for us really easy, being efficient. He got us 4 innings early in the year already. It made it easy. All right, that's his day, and let's move on to another day and keep building off of that.
Yeah, you look at it, Kavion Griffith, you brought him in. He gave you an inning, a little bit shaky to start, a little freshman having some little bit of nerves, but gave up 1 earned run, 2 runs overall on 1 hit, 2 walks. And then Wes White came in, and what can you say? Welcome back, Wes White. I'm glad to see him healthy. 2 innings, 3 strikeouts. I don't think he had a pitch below 90 miles an hour. Wes White is back, folks, and the Wolves are going to be happy to see him.
It's almost poetic because that's who he got hurt against last year, and so it came full circle, and there's not a person that worked harder to get back, that's dealt with more adversity and handled it in a better way. You can't help but root for our guys, and he's the easiest one to root for.
And now you turn your attention to your upcoming, both of your upcoming doubleheaders are going to be against this team. You're going to play Delgado. We're going to host them on Sunday at 1-3, and then Tuesday you're going to go over there and play them. Believe the times for that are 12-3. So what do we know about the Dolphins coming into this one? I know it's early. I know that's a team that last year we were able to go over there and I think swept them at their place and played really well against them. That's a team that's always a perennial powerhouse on the D1 side of baseball. But what do you know about them heading into those 4?
They typically always play the game the right way. They don't beat themselves, and that's why they've always sustained so much success. Coach Sherman always runs a really good program over there. It's a great test for us. I want to make sure we play as many really powerhouse teams as possible because we got to get better going into conference season, and there's no better team than Delgado to keep matching up with.
So, again, congratulations on the first couple of wins. Thanks for joining us this week. We look forward to having you next week, and hopefully we're talking about 4 more Wolves wins, and we've moved on to 6-0, and things are feeling really good. But despite that, we're still going to talk to you no matter what and look forward to it. Again,
good.
Wolves are hot as they start the season with a sweep of Nunez, win Game 1 13-12, win Game 2 4-2. That will wrap up our show this week. Don't forget, we've got all kinds of action. Head on over to social media, check all that out. Women's tennis in action on Wednesday. Softball is on the road on Friday and Saturday, as well as women's basketball hosting this weekend. Women's and men's basketball hosting on Saturday. Women's tennis on the road this weekend as well, too. And then, of course, we got baseball on Sunday. I'm Kevin Kyzar, your sports information coordinator here at Co-Lin. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.